Good morning. It is good to see you, and I join and blessed and be with you all. I'm Richard Maraj. I'm the senior minister here at Unity Phoenix, and so I want to welcome you, tell you how great and wonderful it is to see you and to have you as a part of our Sunday worship celebration. We have two intentions every Sunday, and the first one is that you have a deep and profound experience of God. So everyone just take a deep breath, and best as you can, just relax and let go of all the responsibilities and activities, and just open your heart to allow your heart to be touched in an amazing and powerful way by the living Spirit of God, to heal you, to uplift you, and to open you to live life and to live it more abundantly. And the second intention we have is that you feel a sense of connection and community. You know, the fact is, what creates this experience is not just us who are up on the platform, but every single one of our presence and our energy creates this experience of God, creates this experience of energy and community that we all feel. We all create it together, and we are all blessed by it together. So again, everyone just take a deep breath and expand yourself and feel a sense of connection and the power of beingness and amazing energy of this incredible community. So welcome, everyone.
And I'm Reverend Tina Brown, and I am the spiritual education minister, and so happy to be with you here this morning. Won't you please join with me as we affirm our mission statement together? Together?
Unity of Phoenix is a loving spiritual community that welcomes all people and honors all paths to God. We are dedicated to transforming lives by inspiring and awakening individuals to discover God's Spirit within them.
Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. I can feel God's mighty power and God's grace. I can feel the brush of angels' wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place.
Surely the presence of the Lord is indeed in this place, within us and all around us. So in this place we are safe and secure. We are enfolded in God's love and protecting care. And so if we have faced any challenges before we have come here this morning, we place them in this sacred space and time, knowing and trusting that all is well and in perfect order. So we release and let go of all that has become before this moment. And we enter into this conscious communion with the Holy Spirit that resides within us, connecting our hearts and minds with one another, just basking in this beautiful presence that is here with us right now. And so with this peace and love and warmth of God that is all around us, we let go. And we enter into the silence of our being, and we call upon the Holy Spirit to reveal those things which is ours to do today, to be today, to know and learn today, and to heal those places within us that are in need of healing. And we place any prayers that you may have for anyone in your life in this sacred space, entering to the silence of our being, trusting that all is unfolding and all is well as we let go and let God. And as we begin to bring our awareness back to this service and to this sanctuary, let us remain centered in this sacred space, aware of God's presence in and through all, as all. So we give thanks for this time of the silence, in the name and through the power of the living Christ's presence. And so it is, and so we let it be. Amen.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And leave us not in temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever.
Morning again, everyone. And a shout out to everyone who tunes in and watches us online. Thanks for being with us. So God was missing for 6 days. And eventually, Michael, the archangel, found him resting on the seventh. And he inquired, God, where you been? And God sighed with a level of satisfaction and proudly pointed through the clouds and said, look, Michael, look what I made. And the archangel Michael said, what is it? And he said, God said, it's a planet. It's a planet, and I put life on it. I'm going to call it Earth, and it's going to be a place of incredible balance. Balance, Michael said. And God just pointed and said, yes. Look, for example, I've made countries where there's incredible opportunity and wealth, and also countries where there are not so many opportunities and not as much wealth. I've made countries with high elevations and low elevations. I made big animals, small animals, country with people with fair skin, with dark skin. There's balance in all things. And he continued, he said, look, at this one, that country is extremely hot, and that one's extremely cold and even covered with ice. There's balance in everything. And then so Michael said, hey, so what's that one? And he said, oh, well, that's Washington State. That's the most glorious place on earth. The beautiful mountains and rivers and lakes and forests and hills and plains. And the people from Washington State are going to be intelligent, hardworking, and modest. They are going to be known for their honesty, their integrity, and their willingness to work for the common good. They will be so highly respected and thought of throughout the nation and the entire world. And Michael just gasped, in awe. And he was so inspired. He said, but God, what about the balance? The balance, you said balance. And God smiled and said, hey, there's another Washington. And wait till you see the people I put there. So this morning, we're talking about balance. We are talking about balance. And, I think most of us don't really realize or give a lot of thought to how important balance is in terms of being a foundation for a better life. I don't think most of us realize or think about balance as being an important life principle and an important spiritual practice. When you think about it, balance is really what's needed to have a happy and fulfilling life. Balance is needed for our health. For physical, emotional, and mental well-being, we need balance. To have success at work, we need to have balance. To have success in our relationships, our family life, or our spiritual life, all of it requires us to have balance. Anybody ever a time in your life where you felt out of balance? Anybody ever felt out of balance? You know, the thing, when we're out of balance, it is amazing how we feel unsettled and out of sync. It's amazing how we feel tired, almost like a hamster on a wheel, just kind of so busy and exhausted, and yet we don't feel very effective, like we're getting a lot done, and we don't feel very fulfilled. But when there is balance in our lives, it's amazing how calming balance can be. Balance can be calming. It can bring such a level of peace when there's balance and clarity. We can be, when we're balanced, we actually tend to make clearer and better decisions. We tend to be more aware. We tend to be more effective. We tend to be more present to ourselves and the people in our lives and the work and the activities that we're doing. That when we are balanced, we have more energy, we have more joy. And as wonderful and important as balance is, it's not always easy to keep in balance. There are so many responsibilities, so many activities, so many things going on that keeping in balance is a tough thing. How many people would say that you struggle and one of the hardest things in your life is to stay balanced? Anybody would agree with that? Okay, great. About 6 of us. That's good. That's good. Balance is a tough thing. Tough thing. It's almost like being tightrope walkers. It's like tightrope walkers have things that can throw them off from balance internally, externally, and then they also have to be aware of everyone that's watching. There's so many things going on with us in our lives, focusing on the work we're doing, providing for our families, and also trying to fulfill a higher level of purpose and a greater vision. And within the context of that, we got to eat and sleep and exercise and pay bills and shop and take care of our homes, and to nurture our relationships. There are a lot of conflicting things that are going on that can sometimes throw us off our balance. And all tightrope walkers, to be really good, is there something going on above us? Oh, okay. All right. All right. Hey. Oh, okay. Is that what you... I love that. Woo! Can I continue? Or should I go? No, you are awesome. You're doing a great job. Thank you. And the thing about tightrope walkers is that they, sometimes with the things that are throwing them off, wherever the source is internal, external, or theoretical, that whatever it is, they have to make adjustments. And maybe it's to shift left, to shift right, to take a few steps quicker. Maybe it's to just slow down and not take any steps and just bend their knees. But there are many adjustments that need to be made. And one of the things to be a successful tightrope walker, you've got to be aware of the balances, of the imbalances. And you can't resist them. In fact, you have to embrace them, be aware of them, and utilize them to help get centered and to be more balanced and more effective. Let me give you an example. And one of the things is that with these imbalances, sometimes they come not only from the conflicting responsibilities and ideas and tasks, but sometimes there are things that are just paradoxical, these imbalances in our lives. Like, let me give you an example. When I was growing up as a kid and I read the Bible, it would say, ask and you shall receive. And say, whatever you ask in prayer, believe that you've received it and it'll be yours. And I thought asking was the big thing. And then I'd read something that says, God knows what you need. Don't worry. God already knows what you need. It's like, wait, do I ask or does God already know? Or, it'll say, decide upon a thing, it'll be established for you. And then I'd read, thy will be done. Well, should I decide or is God's will already done? I'd see things like knock and the door will be opened unto you. And then it would say, be still and know that I am God. So should I knock or should I be still? And we hear conflicting things like stand firm, but be flexible. Be independent, but just know you're interdependent. We hear all these different things. It's like, if you want to get more, work harder. But then we hear, if you want to get more, you shouldn't try so hard. It's like, you'll hear things like, if you want to feel less pain, you should avoid the pain. But if you want to feel less pain, you also hear, you should allow the pain. It is amazing the different things we hear that can be very contradictory, and we aren't quite sure which way to go. Even in researching for this, here are 2 quotes I heard. This one's from Albert Einstein. He said, life is like riding a bicycle, and to keep your balance, you've got to keep moving. And then Barbara DeAngelis says that if with all the giving we do, for us to keep balance, we need to stop, be still, and be in solitude. So we're told balance takes moving and the question, which is right? And the answer is both, or all. Because life has paradoxes. There's no right and perfect answer all the time. There's certain competing and seeming contradictory things in us and about life that we need to pay attention to, that we need to go with, to shift with, for us to really feel a greater sense of peace and fulfillment. And instead of rejecting or believing in one or the other, we need to embrace the paradoxes, embrace the things that create some imbalance. Because Mark Lesser, in the book we're going to be studying today, says that paradoxes actually lead to greater insight. Because paradoxes challenge the habitual way we think and force us to awaken, to look at the areas as where we're imbalances, so we can make the adjustments to feel more balanced, more centered, more clear, and more effective in the way that we live. So today we're beginning a 5-week series called The Paradox of Life. The book is entitled Know Yourself, Forget Yourself. And the first thing we're going to look at is know yourself, the paradox, know yourself, forget yourself. You know, it's said that what's written at the temple of Apollo in ancient Greece is the words, know thyself. And they say those are the greatest words of wisdom and insight, that we need to know ourselves, to know the depth of God, the depth of life, the depth of love, that we're the only way. It is by knowing ourselves can we go deeper into the experience of life, because we're the only vehicles through which love and wisdom and peace and joy can be felt. It's not outside. We need to know ourselves. Ralph Waldo Emerson says you need to know yourself if you're going to experience and know the fullness of God. And yet, on the other side, in Christianity, we're taught the opposite, that the path to God is to forget yourself, to deny yourself. You know, to die to your old self, to leave yourself is the path to fulfillment. Zen Buddhism, you know, the founder of Zen Buddhism said to study the way, the Tao, is to study the self. And to study the self is to forget the self. So which is it? To know yourself or forget yourself? They seem contradictory, and yet I will tell you they are powerfully and both hugely important. And we need to embrace those contradictions and those paradoxes if we want to go fuller and to expand and feel a fuller and richer experience of life. If we want to have less resistance and greater understanding, more efficiency and clarity and balance, we need to embrace all of the paradoxes of life. So let's have a look at know yourself, forget yourself. Let's start with know yourself. How well do you know yourself? What is your relationship with yourself like? Is it smooth and harmonious and fun and playful? Or is it contentious? And is there turmoil and conflict in it? How well do you relate to your feelings and your thoughts, to your emotions, to your inner voice, to your fear, to feelings of love and inspiration? Or here's another question. How could you improve your relationship with yourself? What would you need to do to improve your relationship with yourself? So that sounds kind of crazy, asking about how's your relationship with yourself and all of that. But the truth is, your relationship with yourself is the foundation and basis for all relationships, of how we see ourselves, how we see others, how we interact with others. And so self-knowledge, knowing yourself, is the highest form and the highest path to greater fulfillment and joy and peace. The kingdom of God is within us. You know, to know our higher self, we need to know our human self as well. And sometimes it's amazing how we don't know ourselves. When I was a kid and someone would say, hey, what do you want? My first answer was, well, I don't know. I remember the first time I went to a therapist, he said, so how are you feeling? I said, I'm not sure. And it sounds kind of silly, but in many ways, sometimes we don't know what we want. Sometimes we don't know what we're feeling. Sometimes we don't know our own needs and wants and desires. We are so disconnected from ourselves. And to be disconnected from yourself is to be disconnected from life, disconnected from love and peace and joy. So one of the most important things to improve our lives, to feel happier and more content, is to get to know yourself, to get to be more acquainted with yourself. And one of the hardest practices to do that is the practice of self-awareness. And there are two ways that we practice self-awareness to get to know ourselves. Number one is to ask ourselves a question. Would you be willing to take some time and just ask yourself the question, what do I want? What am I feeling? What is it that I'm holding on to? What do I need to let go? Who do I need to forgive? What do I want to attract? Who do I want to be? What do I want to create? What difference am I here to make? To begin to ask ourselves those questions, to explore, to know our internal feelings, our preferences, our likes, our dislikes, our motivations. That's an important thing. It is so empowering to know who we are. You know why? Because sometimes when we don't know who we are, our unconscious beliefs drive us with some pretty destructive behavior. Sometimes we aren't aware of why we're drinking or why we're serial dating or why, we're feeling unworthy or why we have shame or why we aren't willing to try or reach out or ask for help. That when we get self-awareness by asking who we are and learning about ourselves, guess what? It brings us a level of awareness that allows us to own and have responsibility for our thoughts and lives. It creates a sense of power and freedom in getting to know yourself. So my question for you is, are you willing to take some time to know yourself, to ask yourself, who am I? What do I want? What do I need to change? What do I need to transform? Who do I want to become? And then the second thing is to practice attention. Asking is one thing, but practice attention. And in Buddhism, they say focus on your breath, but notice your thoughts. Be aware of your thoughts. Don't judge them. Just notice the things that come into your mind. And then you keep coming back to your breath, but you notice these things that pop up, and they show some patterns of the things that we feel, things that we dislike, certain things that are going on that are good for us to know. And the more we practice just paying attention to these things and not judging them or chasing them, something really amazing happens. The more we know ourselves and are aware of ourselves, you know what? The more we can let go of ourselves. The more we can let go of the control of those thoughts. When we're aware of them, we can actually let them go. The more we know ourselves, we can actually get out of our own way. Anybody ever been in your own way? And so one of the things is the more we're aware by asking and paying attention, the more we're able to actually let go of the things that can control us and sabotage our lives, the more we can set ourselves aside to open ourselves to greater possibilities. And one of the things we realize, the more we ask ourselves these questions and get to know ourselves, the story we've all created about our lives, it's just a story. It's impermanent. It's ephemeral. It's not something that'll last. And yet sometimes when we aren't aware of it, it can control us. So the more we know, the less it controls us. And then the other thing is, the more we know ourselves, as great as that is, it also has a certain limit. Let me give an example. My favorite quote by Rudyard Kipling, who wrote the poem If. Here's what he said. He said, "What does he know of England if he England only knows?" Let me read it again. What does he know of England if he only England knows? Here's what I think he means. If you only know England, if that's all you know, then you don't really know England because you haven't seen any perspective outside of it. And until you see perspectives outside of what you know, you don't really understand what you know or the context of what you know. Similarly, if you only know you and your thoughts and ideas without knowing some other perspectives, then you really don't even know yourself because you don't even know what other choices you have to know. Does that make sense, everyone? So knowing yourself is a valuable thing that gives you power and has you let go of the destructive unconscious things and gives you more control. And yet, as good and wonderful as it is to know yourself and be aware of these thoughts and not let them control you, there's a limit. There's something even greater beyond knowing oneself. It's important. Self-awareness by asking and paying attention. And then there's something even greater beyond it, and that is to forget yourself. To forget yourself. And to forget yourself and know yourself sounds like opposites or contradiction or paradoxes, but you know what? They're actually a different aspect of the same thing. Like heads and tails on a coin are just different aspects of the same coin, but they're both important. And so forgetting oneself isn't like numbing out or not caring or being unconscious. It is just a different way of relating to ourselves. It's about moving beyond what we know to something greater. And the most important practice there in knowing yourself, it's self-awareness. In forgetting yourself, you know what the practice is? It's letting go. How good are you at letting go? As human beings, we tend to not to be as good at letting go. When we get scared, we tend to hold on. When we get scared, what do? We even hold on to our breath. When we get scared, we hold on to our stuff. When we get scared, we hold on or are attached to our self-identity. We hold on to our beliefs. We hold on, to the rigid idea of what our self-identity is. When we get scared, we hold on. But if we want to move beyond our limits of what we know ourselves to be, guess what? We need to learn and practice how to let go. We hold on to even the thoughts we think. Do you know 92% of the thoughts you think today, you thought yesterday? We love our thoughts so much we thought we'd keep them again. 82%. And not only our thoughts, I don't know about you, but I tend to eat the same food, go to the same restaurants, go down the same aisles in the grocery, watch the same TV shows. Anybody do that? Look at that. We want better lives, yet we won't let go and go beyond who we know ourselves to be. I would grocery shop and I would go down the same aisles and I had to force myself, start buying something new every time you grocery shop. A couple months ago I started. The first thing I bought was pickled okra. Never had that before. I've had gefilte fish. I've had sardines. I have had some things. But I'm trying to stretch and let go beyond the routine and the patterns. We want our lives to change, yet we keep doing the very, very same things over and over again. Listen to the Apostle Paul. He only 2 words, but here's what he said. He said, I die daily. I think those are 3 words. I die daily. But hear that. And what he means is that every day I let go of everything I've experienced. I let go of everything I think I should be so that I can be born anew the next day to see that day with fresh eyes and not be thinking over 92% of the very same things again. Letting go. Are you willing to learn and practice letting go what you know of yourself or what you've thought your life should be, to expand, to move to something greater beyond those limits of what you currently know? So one of the things, 2 practices about letting go. Number 1, one of the great signs of forgetting yourself and letting go is to listen to others with compassion. How well do you listen in your life? And who in your life you know that you would be benefited from by being more attentive and listening? Human beings are so caught up in our own head that sometimes we need to forget ourselves to be present to another human being, to hear what they're feeling, to hear what's going on with them, to help them heal, to help them feel more affirmed, to help them feel encouraged. When Jesus said no greater gift than this, than a man who would lay down his life for his friends, he didn't just mean die and catch a bullet for someone. It means one of the greatest acts of love is to set aside your concerns to allow someone else to be fully present to someone. To just be present and to give them your attention was the greatest gifts. You remember the story with Mary and Martha? How Jesus was over and Martha was, cooking and stuff, getting prepared, and Mary was just listening to him. And then Martha says, hey, Jesus, could you tell Mary to help me out? I'm doing all this stuff. And she's just sitting there and listening to you. And Jesus said, hey, Martha, I know you're worried. That's good stuff. But, Mary has chosen the better part, and it will not be taken from her. And here's what the better part is. Sometimes we're all about doing. She was about doing for Jesus. But you know what Mary is doing? She was being present. I will tell you, the greatest gift you can give someone isn't what you're doing for them. It's how you're being for them. To be present, to be available, to be caring is the greatest gift you can give to another human being. And so my question for you is, are you willing to let go, forget yourself, and who in your life do you know it's important for you to start listening to? And I'll tell you, it works for everybody. In our relationships, and listening to people in our work, listening to our neighbors, listening is one of the most powerful healing things we can ever do, one of the greatest acts of love. But we need to let go to be able to really listen. And then the second thing about letting go and forgetting ourselves is to let go and to step into the unknown. Are you willing to let go to step into the unknown? How many people have heard of Joseph Campbell? How many people, his thing, the hero's journey, is really an archetypal label for a mystical pattern that he says that it's almost universal in all cultures, that every one of us is on a hero's journey. Every one of us is on a hero's journey. That in fact our stories, as different as they seem, are actually all the same stories. And here's the story of all of us, the hero's journey. Number one is, the first one is to leave the known and what is safe and comfortable. Second is to enter the unknown and be tested and challenged by it. And third is to return home transformed. And he said, we are all on a hero's journey. Whether you are applying for a new job, or you are learning to play an instrument, or to drive, or learning how to swim, or whether you are enduring a period of grief, or whether you are embarking on a new relationship, or whether you're starting your own business, or where you're ending a job or a relationship, whether you are experiencing a sense of accomplishment. Everyone is on a hero's journey. Every one of us, our soul is calling us to leave the known and to step into the unknown. Our soul is calling us to step into something we aren't quite sure if we want to do. We're a little bit scared to try it, that we're not quite sure we're prepared for it, but our souls are all calling us, and the question is, are you willing to let go and to step into the unknown? I love the story with Peter. Remember when Peter was in the boat with the disciples and there was a storm? And I love how Peter was called to step out of the safety of that boat and to step into the unknown, which was stepping onto the stormy sea. And when he stepped out and he looked at the Christ, he was able to stay above. But when he changed his focus and put it on the crisis, on the storm and the winds, he sank. But I will tell you, it seemed like he failed, but I would say he succeeded because he was willing to step out of the boat. Here's a paradoxical thing by George Carlin. He says, if you try to fail and you succeed, which have you done? I just want you to think about that. My point is anytime you step into the unknown, there is a risk that you might fail and you might fall. But I will guarantee you, at every time you will grow, you will learn, you will expand, and you will extend yourself beyond the limits of what you thought you were before. Guarantee you. 2 years ago, Craig and Rusty were hiking and walking in Payson. Some rain came down and they kind of hid for cover, and they ended up going into the Zane Grey Museum. Just looking around there. And Craig was kind of inspired. He'd never read any Zane Grey stuff, and he thought maybe he should. So he looked down the list of Zane Grey books, and he picked and thought he should read the book, Riders of the Purple Sage. He said he got it on his Kindle, and within 20 pages, he knew his soul called him to write an opera about that. And so he stepped into the unknown. He'd never written a Western opera before. In fact, no one had. And he stepped into the unknown. And the synchronicity of meeting and connecting and drawing people, because he was willing to step beyond his limits into the unknown. After 2 years of work and effort, the Arizona Opera 6 months ago signed a contract with him to put on and produce Riders of the Purple Sage, the first Western opera it will feature and debut in February of 2017, because he was willing to step into the unknown. We're all on a hero's journey, and the question is, what are you being called to let go of, and what are you being called to step into the unknown, and are you willing to step into the unknown? I'll tell you one thing about life, it's not easy. There are all kinds of responsibilities and challenges. There are internal contradictions. There are paradoxes all over the place. And it can scare us. It can overwhelm us and have us feel like we are off balance. And we can respond by running and hiding and pretending, or we can face it, open up to it, and embrace all of those paradoxes. There's a full, amazing life waiting for us beyond the limits of what we currently know. The question is, are you willing to embrace it? With two powerful practices: self-awareness. Ask yourself what you want, what you need, what your fears are. Get to learn about yourself, and then pay attention. The more you're aware, the better you can release and let go and set aside all those things you know. The more you know of you, the better you can let go of you. And then the second thing is to let go. To let go, and let go of your concerns and listen to somebody. Listen to the people in your life, and then step into the unknown and take your hero's journey. Your life will be better. I guarantee it. It will be more balanced if you embrace the paradox. Know yourself. Forget yourself. God bless you all. Here we go.
Light of
God surrounds us.
The
love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us.
Wherever we are, God is.
Now we're going to sing. Now we'll sing.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With God as creator, family all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
God bless you, everybody. A great day and a wonderful week.